Welcome to Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends. When Western strategists analyze the artificial intelligence race, they make the exact same mistake they made in the Middle East. They confuse raw, expensive brute force with ultimate strategic victory. Silicon Valley and Washington are operating on a conventional megawatt and market cap doctrine. Tech giants like Microsoft, Google, Meta, and OpenAI are spending upwards of $300 billion annually on massive data centers, powering tens of thousands of NVIDIA Blackwell chips to train proprietary models. They believe that whoever spends the most capital and controls the largest compute clusters wins. China's AI labs have taken inspiration from Islamic Quran and Iran's IRGC. When facing a conventionally dominant adversary, you do not fight on their terms. You adapt from 5 Quranic asymmetric principles into software architecture. The first principle translated into AI is al-idad, preparation through asymmetric efficiency. In warfare, al-idad means building low-cost, high-saturation weapons instead of trying to match aircraft carriers. In AI, it means algorithmic optimization over raw hardware. When US export controls cut China off from NVIDIA's top-tier chips, Chinese labs didn't surrender. Instead, pioneers like DeepSeek introduced hyper-efficient architectures like mixture of experts, MOE, and multi-head latent attention. While OpenAI spends hundreds of millions of dollars training frontier models on massive GPU clusters, DeepSeek built near-frontier models like R1 and V4 for a tiny fraction of that cost, delivering comparable intelligence at 50 times lower API pricing. That is al-idad in code, neutralizing a $100 billion hardware monopoly with software ingenuity. The second principle is as-sabr wal-istinzaf, strategic patience and economic attrition. Western AI development is chained to quarterly earnings reports, venture capital hype cycles, and Wall Street's immediate demands for return on investment. If Microsoft or Alphabet drop billions on data centers without immediate revenue, stock prices plummet. China plays the long game. Backed by state-directed guidance funds, Chinese tech giants like Alibaba, Baidu, and Tencent are willing to subsidize AI infrastructure indefinitely. They absorb short-term hardware penalties to wage a war of attrition, waiting for Western AI hyperscalers to face capital fatigue and energy grid bottlenecks. Welcome back to Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends, as we continue to examine how the remaining asymmetric principles are reshaping the global AI stack. Deterrence and patience are only half the equation. To survive an economic embargo, an AI ecosystem requires global reach, structural redundancy, and tactical deception. This brings us to the third principle, al-murabata, the doctrine of forward outposts. In military strategy, ribat means securing frontier outposts. In the AI war, al-murabata is the battle for open-source developer dominance. While American labs like OpenAI and Anthropic locked their weights behind expensive proprietary closed APIs, China went all in on open weights. Models like Alibaba's Qwen and DeepSeek have recorded over 1 billion downloads globally, becoming the default foundational engine for developers across Asia, Europe, and the global South. By embedding open Chinese AI models into the world's software infrastructure, Beijing creates a forward network that bypasses Western regulatory control. The fourth principle is shahada, immunization through structural redundancy. The US Commerce Department believed that placing strict export bans on NVIDIA chips and ASML lithography tools would decapitate Chinese tech. But just as targeted assassinations failed to paralyze an organization built for martyrdom, hardware bans failed to paralyze Chinese AI. Instead, the bans acted as an immunization event. By blocking NVIDIA, Washington accidentally created a protected domestic market for Huawei. Paired with domestic foundries like SMIC, Huawei's Ascend AI chips now power over 40% of China's domestic AI infrastructure. The attempt to decapitate China's supply chain forced them to build an independent, self-reliant hardware stack. The fifth principle is al-qaid, gray zone maneuver, and synthetic distillation. In asymmetric warfare, you never attack a fortified target directly. In AI, al-qaid manifests as model distillation and cross-border compute routing. Chinese researchers routinely use lightweight algorithmic techniques to extract knowledge from massive Western models, using outputs from GPT or Claude to train hyperlean Chinese models. Combined with stealth compute clusters and open-weight fine-tuning, China achieves 95% of Western model capability at 2% of the cost. Welcome back to Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends for the final verdict on the global artificial intelligence struggle. So, who is actually winning this race? The United States or China? Here is the explicit reality. The United States holds the peak, but China holds the momentum, and in a technological shift, momentum wins. If you measure the AI race purely by frontier benchmarks, hardware manufacturing, and private venture capital, the United States is currently ahead. American labs like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google still produce the world's most capable raw frontier models. NVIDIA remains the world's undisputed hardware leader, and TSMC fabricates silicon that China's SMIC cannot match on raw yield or nanometer size. In private investment, US firms spent over $285 billion in 2025 compared to China's $12 billion. However, that metric is an illusion. According to Stanford University's AI Index, despite spending 23 times more private capital, the performance gap between top US and Chinese models has collapsed from 30 percentage points down to under 3 percentage points. China is winning where AI actually transforms economies, which is cost, adoption, and industrial integration. First, the cost curve. By open sourcing models through DeepSeek and Alibaba's Qwen, China has made near-frontier intelligence virtually free. While American companies try to sell expensive subscription APIs, China is driving global developer adoption and setting the global technical standard. Second, physical deployment. China leads the world in embodied AI and industrial robotics. China accounts for over 54% of all new industrial robot installations worldwide, operating over 2 million industrial units compared to just 394,000 in the US. China is integrating AI directly into smart factories, supply chains, autonomous electric vehicles, and grid-scale battery systems. Third, the energy wall. Running next-generation AI data centers requires massive electrical power. America's aging, deregulated energy grid cannot build nuclear and high-voltage transmission lines fast enough. China brings more nuclear, solar, and hydropower online annually than the rest of the world combined. The verdict is clear. The United States is winning the race to build the most expensive, hyper-complex digital brain, but China is winning the asymmetric war to build cheap, open-source intelligence that powers the physical world. Unless Washington shifts from a strategy of financial speculation and export sanctions to true industrial execution and energy overhaul, the empire of brute force will be outmaneuvered by the architecture of asymmetric efficiency. Thank you for watching Talks with Dr. Gupta and friends. Stay sharp, stay informed, and let's keep analyzing the forces shaping our world.